Those are edible. Maggots are actually edible. It's really nice. It's changed the water out a few times. That would have taken a month. Let's do that a few more times. Be a long, slow boil, like in a big punch. My secret space. So you gotta take a cooties test. You know, I want them to be, oh, that's hot. A little bit in there. It's a sure thing that you'll have an egg. Clear the way I make my coffee mostly. I've got a bunch of acorns left over. There's a bunch of people out there that I refer to as the diarrheers. These are people who are deathly afraid of getting diarrhea. They view it as being worse than any type of terminal disease. Diarrhea is worse according to these folks. Trust me. And they're called the diarrheers. Anyway, I just wanted to eat this raw acorn. That's very bitter, but I wanted to do it just to really mess up their day. So there you go. It's really bitter. Nobody in their right mind would eat more than like a fraction of an acorn that way. But they could if they wanted to and still got nutritional value. But the diarrheers, man, for them, what I just did is a death sentence because, my goodness, heaven forbid, if I'm starving to death out in the woods somewhere, I eat an acorn like this and it keeps me alive, but I get diarrhea. There's no sense in living with diarrhea. So why would I do that? Joking aside, let's talk about what I want to do with these acorns. Now, if you'll remember, in the previous video, I fried them up to get rid of the tannins. It's really bitter. According to the diarrheers, a thing cannot be edible and also potentially give you diarrhea unless it's Taco Bell, pizza, any greasy food, beer, and mezcal. If those things give you diarrhea, according to the diarrheers, that's not a problem, you see. It's only a problem if it involves things from the natural world. Fear not. Raw acorns, whether they give some people diarrhea or not, are indeed edible. You can't eat them raw. Nobody's going to, because as you can see, they're so bitter. I don't get diarrhea eating them that way. I'm sure if I ate a bucket of them, I would, but I'm sane, so I wouldn't eat a bucket of raw acorns just like this. As you saw in the previous video, I roasted these. So there's different preparation methods for these sorts of things. What I did was I was trying to mimic like the circumstances of a Civil War soldier. I pan roasted these over an open fire, and they turned out fantastic. I put a bit of salt on them, and they were fantastic. I still got a mess of them. These are the ones that I prepared last week, and I've been having acorn coffee all week long. Man, that just smells so good. And I'm telling you, there was no soaking involved with this or anything. I just put them in a pan, I roasted them like that, and then I salted them, and I've been eating these all week long. They're delicious. I think I'm in the camera there. I've also been using them with I just want to coffee grinder a little bit in there. Can you folks remember as a coffee substitute? They're fantastic. Let's see how that turns out. So what are some of the other preparation methods for these acorns? Well, hear a lot of folks talking about soaking them in water for many days, emptying the water out 3 or 4 times a day for like 4 days. The reason I didn't do that in the previous video is because I said a Civil War soldier doesn't have that kind of time. So I just pan roasted them, and as you can see, they turned out fantastic. But I had a bunch left over, so I want to make a flour out of these and maybe make some just cakes, you know, like acorn bread out of these, which they're going to be more like crackers, I think, when they turn out. But one thing I got to thinking, and now this is not a preparation method that I have ever heard of in my life. I've never read anything about this, but as I was shelling this, I got to thinking, what would soaking for 3 or 4 days do that just boiling once or twice wouldn't also do? So we're going to try that. We're going to try to boil a portion of these and see how they turn out. We're just going to boil them maybe once, empty the water, put in fresh water, boil them again, empty that, and see how some of these turn out. But that might be a much more practical method if you're out on the woods or you're traveling on foot. You know, you're moving from place to place, which is always the premise that I'm working with. You're carrying just what you got on your back, on the move. You're never staying in one place for too long. That's the premise I'm always working with in like a survival situation. I'm curious how that turns out. I'm going to take you guys along with me as I do this preparation method, and we'll see how it turns out. And like I said, it's not anything I've ever read about or heard of, but it makes sense, doesn't it? Boiling should quicken the process that soaking over multiple days, it should quicken that process and shorten it by many days and hours and hours and hours. We'll see how it turns out. So stick around. Let's see how this goes. See, I got plenty of these acorns left. These are the acorns that I picked the other day in the park that I made a coffee substitute out of and just made it into a tasty treat. Now I'm thinking about trying to turn this into flour. And this is going to take an entirely different preparation method, but I didn't want to waste these acorns. It's fresh meat. They've been sitting around for a couple weeks, and they're still fresh, so they last a while. Once you harvest them, they will last a while until, you know, just being stored away somewhere until you can get around to them. How ripe and fresh that looks. Let me show you the way I do this. First of all, I take an acorn. I take a nutcracker. I put it in lengthwise, and I try to split her in two. There, she's split in two. Now, it's got a dark spot, but I think mostly it's okay. Then what I try to do is I take this tool on my knife. This is not a blade, so it does not have a sharp side to it. It's just like a nail file. A non-sharp blade, but with a point to it. And I stick that in between the shell and the fruit, the meat inside the acorn. Stick that between there, and I give it a pull like that. Basically, I'm pulling the shell away from the nut, so the nut just comes out like that. The meat comes out like that. You get good at it real quick. I said this in the previous video. You folks who are out there in New England, who are used to shucking oysters, be really good at this acorn stuff. Somebody across the road there is vacuuming, I don't know what. It sounds like they're vacuuming the Taj Mahal over there, because it's just going on and on and on and on. Point made. Some maggots in there. It's amazing how those maggots get into some of those. Happy as can be to just live inside that acorn. We all talk to ourselves around here. You see that? Old Emerson does the same thing. He learned that from me, talking to myself while I work. Did you guys really like that acorn that much? This is Barley Boy. Did you really like that acorn that much? Are you coming over here to steal more from me? Huh? Old Barley. There's Emerson back here. He can't have all the attention away from him. Right, old buddy? All right, you guys hop down and let me finish this up. What do you say? Look, that's a proper acorn, a proper cap. Nice to meet you. Such an interesting nut, isn't it? It's really interesting how nature provides these things. I always think about what it teaches me about God. I'm a God-fearing person. I know a lot of folks watching probably ain't, but I am. And I wonder at the design of these things, at the availability of these things, at the multiple uses of these things. And I just think, well, what does it tell me about my Creator? I think that's the very last acorn. Yes, it is. Got some maggots left over here in my pot. I don't know if you can see that. They must have climbed out of the acorns and got down into the pot there. Those are edible. Maggots are actually edible. They won't hurt you. Not very appetizing, but in an emergency situation, you know, you could do it. I got a story about that. One year, my Aunt Debbie had a big bag of candy bars, like these little miniature bite-sized candy bars. And she said, would you like some of those? And I reached my hand down in the bag and grabbed a bunch of them. I said, yeah. And I was walking back home, taking the wrapping off and eating them just like nothing. Got about 10 in and looked down at one of them and realized it was full of maggots. I didn't know how many of those maggots I ate, but that's a true story. Grody Jody. So we're gonna soak most of these, but I still, for an experiment, I wanna take like maybe a handful, let's say this many right here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna boil these and see how they turn out. Just gonna boil them a couple times. The rest of these we will soak for several days, and we're gonna turn this into a flour and maybe make some crackers out of them, you know, like acorn bread out of the flour, acorn flour that we get out of here, and we'll show that process there. How did that happen? Got one in there, half shell. Let's get that out of there. So that's what we're gonna do. We'll learn more about acorns that way, won't we? I'll tell you what, that boiled real fast. Take a look at that water. That must be all the tannins. That's interesting. So let's get rid of that. Get some new water in there, and this experiment should be done real quick. All right, put in some fresh water, try her again. All right, this is the second boil. Our water's pretty gray again. What I can tell you about this is that the smell coming up off that, it's really nice. It's almost like baked bread. Let's give them one more boil. What we're trying for is to boil until the water is no longer gray like that after the boil. We want it to be kind of clear. That's what we're aiming for. We're aiming for clear water after the boil, or clearer water, let's say. This is what we're going to do with the rest of these. These are the ones that we're just going to soak for several days. So we'll put them in here. We'll soak them. Empty out the water. I don't know if I'm going to be as militant about it as some folks who were commenting on my last video, but we'll soak them and change the water out. There we go. Put the lid on that. Take her from there. Let's go check on the acorns that we're boiling over there. Well, look at that. Look at that. I think we got most of the get out of that steam bath here. I think we got most of the tannins out of there. Remember what I said we were looking for? We were looking for the water after the boil to still be pretty clear. That would be the sign that our boiling process was pretty much done. And look at that. All right, I think we're going to empty the water out of here and see what we can do with these. All right, we're going to give these a try. These have just been boiled and salted heavily. Well, they weren't bitter there at the beginning, but the deeper I got into it, the more bitter it is. But most of the bitterness has been completely eliminated with 3 very quick boils. You know, I just boiled it until the water turned clear, and that really helped the flavor of it a lot. But it's not great. It's not great. I think it would need to be boiled a few more times and for a longer time, and in order to get that bitterness completely out of there. But I mean, it worked quick. In fact, why don't we just keep boiling this a few more times, see if we get that bitterness completely out of there. So what we're doing here right now is we're just doing a slow boil. You know, we did a couple of quick boils, but now I'm just doing a slow boil. I'm just letting that sit there and simmer, and you can see that the water's turning gray again with that, I think, the tannins that were boiling out of the acorns there. But I'm just letting that water boil down like that. I think maybe that's the way to do her. To do a couple of quick boils, get the maximum amount of tannins out in the least amount of time, and then just let them sit and boil for a longer period of time to get the remaining tannins out. Yeah, so this has been slow boiling there for a while. You can see how dark the water is there. That's from slow boiling for 20 minutes or so, 25 minutes. And I think we're ready to try this out. There's just a few in there. This was an experiment to see if boiling was as effective as just soaking for days upon end. Here's what I'd recommend if you're going to do this. Now, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but here's what I would recommend if you're going to do this, which in the interest of time, convenience, that sort of thing, is the reason why you would use this method, this boiling method for these acorns. First two boils happened very fast, within 5-6 minutes. The water was boiling and it looked like a lot of the tannins had come out of the acorns. Emptied the water, put in fresh water. Again, second boil happened very fast. A lot of tannins come out of the acorns. On the third boil, and you got to keep in mind, I've been like checking the water, taking it off the stove, putting it back on the stove, letting it come back up to a boil and everything. And so the whole process here has probably taken me an hour and a half unnecessarily. I'd think if you were going to do this out in the field, what you'd do is you'd take the acorns, you would boil them quick twice, get a large amount of the tannins in those first two really quick boils. And then what I'd say is just put it on a pot and slow boil it for an hour, and then you'll be done. I think you could get the whole thing done in about an hour. Now I'm going to salt these heavy, and I'm not looking for like the best taste here in the world. I'm just trying to see if I was able to get that bitterness out of there. Let's put some more salt on there. There we go. Let's try this. Yeah, I'd say the tannins are all but out of that. All I taste is acorn and salt. It's not delicious, but the alternative is to soak those for days on end. This boiling method is a way to speed up that process. Now that the bitterness is out of there, you could set these out in the sun to dry, and then mash those up or grind these up and have a flour. Be able to make these into a flour within a few hours rather than a few days. So that was the purpose of my experiment. They're not terrible, but I'll tell you what, they're a whole lot better fried up in a pan like you saw me do the other day. Much better than this right here, than this boiling method. And dare I say that the pan roasting method is a whole lot faster, a whole lot simpler, tastes a whole lot better the way it comes out. I realize they look burnt, but they're delicious like this. Make a fantastic coffee substitute, I should say. So currently there's the two methods I've tried. Boiling, which works. Within an hour you could have them ready to be sitting out for drying, and I'd say within 3 hours you could have a flour made out of these. Now the other method I've got going on right now is the soaking method. Let me show you what I'm soaking those in. Alright, so here's the pot that I'm using for soaking, and this is going to take days. So when I come back, a day or many days will have had to have passed. I'm going to switch out the water out of these once a day. I've heard people do it 4 or 5 times a day, but these have been sitting here for a while and there's no discoloration to the water whatsoever. What I need is to see some discoloration in that water before I empty out the water and put new water in. But that's going to be the process for several days. When we come back, hopefully that will have happened. Good morning. It's day 2, and I just woke up, threw on some clothes, come out here to take a looky-see at this at these acorns. This is day 2, and here's what I got to say. The water looks awfully clear. We're going to empty out this water. Here's what I have to say about the water looking so clear. So when I did my Acorn video, I got these folks coming out of the woodwork saying that, yeah, the way that's the wrong way to do it. The way I do it is this. And what they said is that they would just soak the acorns in water, just plain water, for like 4 or 5 days and change out the water 3 or 4 times a day. The honesty of these folks saying that this is how they do it, I don't think they've ever done it in their lives before. I think they read about it in a book somewhere, and they said, I'm going to adopt that as my story, as the way that I do it. I think that's what that is. Now, when we start to pour this water out, we may see the tannins in it, but there you go. These acorns have soaked in there all day yesterday, all night long. I got up now, and we're going to empty out the water. Now, as we start pouring the water out, we may see that the water is discolored with the tannins. We might. I'll tell you what, I'm not sure I got the sort of patience for just soaking these for an entire week just to get a couple acorn patties out of this. I think the way that I showed earlier with the boiling is a much more practical way, and that may be what I end up doing with these, because if you'll remember, I boiled those within an hour. Those acorns were ready for drying, ready for processing as far as grinding down and turning into a flour. This method takes all week long. I did see a video the other day of some Iranians making acorn flour, and let me tell you, they skipped all this. In fact, I think they even skipped the shelling process. I think in that video that I saw, it was not a tutorial, it was just a video of just the Iranian women, just their natural life. And they were crushing the acorns, I think, with shells and all. And they started with that process, and then they put them into big baskets and stuff and covered them and let them sit for a couple days and those sorts of things. So there's different ways to do it, but that's part of the fun of all this, ain't it? All right, let's drain this water, put some more water in, and we'll check back on them at the end of the day. If I'm not happy with the discoloration of the water, then I may just go to boiling these. I think it's going to be a better process, the boiling process, but we'll see. All right, let's do her. There was a little bit of discoloration in there. It was a lot more orangier than I thought it was going to be. So this soaking may be the thing. So I have decided that I don't have the patience to wait an entire week changing out water and this and that and doing all that, when I believe that boiling accomplishes the exact same thing in a fraction of the amount of time. So what I'm going to do with these acorns is I'm going to boil them up today. They should be ready tomorrow for making into flour. I said I don't have to wait, 5-6 days. I just got to thinking about it, and it just doesn't seem practical to me to use a method that is much, much slower and ultimately does exactly the same thing that my method will do in a fraction of the time. So remember, the premise I'm always working on is that you're on the move, you're moving from place to place, you're on foot, these sorts of things. So I'm more interested in just getting her done. And it's not just impatience. I mean, I've got the patience to soak these for an entire week. I got the patience to soak them for 2 weeks, but it just doesn't seem very practical to me. And like I say, I think that boiling these will do exactly the same thing that soaking does in a fraction of the time. So let's get started on that. Look how much the tannins are already out of that. Look at that. That's, I mean, it's been sitting here boiling for about, no joke, about 8 minutes. And look how much of the tannins have come out. I would have had to soak those for a friggin' month to get that many tannins out of those acorns. And what I just accomplished in 10 minutes. So I'm just gonna let that slow boil for a while. I'll change the water out a few times. Look at that. Look how brown that water is. I mean, that's like 10, 12 minutes worth of work right there. That would have taken a month just soaking them in water like people always talk about. All right, let's do that a few more times. So this here is the follow-up boil, and I moved it to a different stove just because I wanted this to be a long, slow boil. And so I needed a bit more fuel for that. But you can see that the tannins are still coming out of there, and I'm just letting that cook like that. And this will probably be the last boil. Let's take a looky-see here. I think it's getting pretty clear, the water. And I think this is the 4th or 5th boil. And what we're gonna do is we're done with the boiling process. No more boiling. What I'm gonna do is empty this, and then we're just gonna pour in fresh water, leave it overnight like that, and then tomorrow we're done with this part of the process. Tomorrow we're gonna go on to the next step, and that should be interesting. Just dump the water, and here's what we got. I got as much of the tannins out as I could just by boiling, and so let's put in some fresh water here. And we're gonna call this the very last step in this process. So what would have taken, a week, 2 weeks, we're speeding up and getting done in practically a single day. All right, that's it. Till tomorrow. Well, good morning. Here we are. It's a third day, a third morning. And it's going to be interesting to see what we do today, because I was imagining this beautiful, bright, sunny day where I could dry the acorns out under the hot, open sun. What I got instead is kind of a drizzly, kind of a pitter-patter day. Let me get those acorns. Here they are. Still got the water that we put in there last night. Let me dump that out so I'm not dripping stuff all over my desk here. Come on. Focus on the acorns, not on my beautiful face. There's a couple of ideas that I've got. I'm going to try to set these outside in the air, in the open air, because what I'm trying to mimic is being out in the woods, being out on the move. And so everything I'm doing here, for example, I have a stove. I could take these in, bake them in the stove, and get the desired effect. But what I really was hoping to do today was to do this underneath the sun. Now, if that don't work, if we can't do it underneath the sun, I do have an alternative. I have a heat lamp for like hatching chicks. I bought it earlier this year for these pups that you see running around in the back of my videos. I used that heat lamp when they were very young to keep them warm. If we can't do this in the natural, under the natural sun today, we might get that heat lamp out and mimic the effects of the sun on the acorns and do it that way until we get a sunny day. We want to be able to get these back inside the house if it starts to rain on us. Just trying to space these out enough so that there's none of them like in a big bunch. I don't want them to hold on to moisture that way. I want them to completely dry out. Well, the rain is forecast to begin falling here in about 10 minutes. So I ain't gonna take any chances. I'm gonna collect my acorns here and I'm gonna save them just like this. And when the time comes, we'll bring them back out to dry some more in the sun. Good morning, everybody. It is unreasonably gray and rainy outside today. Today's the 4th day. And so in order to get this done, I'm going to get that heat lamp that I had mentioned yesterday. I'm going to get that out. We're going to mimic the sun with the heat lamp and hopefully be able to make these acorns into a flower today. You see, even with my shortcuts, this has taken multiple days, but honestly, given ideal circumstances, I'm talking about like sunny days, you could do all this out in the woods probably within a day or two, even if you were traveling on foot from place to place and that sort of thing. I've got the acorns right here. Same way we left them yesterday. You know, you could scoop those up, travel with them, get to your spot for the night and set those out into the sun. You like that? Oh, Mikey likes it. You might say, why don't you just stick them in your oven and get them done that way? Because I want to stick as close as possible to a method that I could use while being out on foot in the woods, traveling, and being able to work with only what I got on me. So let me get that sun lamp out. It'll mimic the sun, no different than if the acorns were just sitting out underneath the sun. And we'll sit them underneath that heat lamp for a while today, and hopefully by the end of the day, we might get to the grinding process, or the, turning them into flour. Right, Emerson? Right? Right. Pretty sure I put that heat lamp up here. Uh-oh. You guys have seen my secret space. This is my secret clubhouse up here. Nobody's allowed to see it unless you're a member. You don't have cooties, so you got to take a cooties test. Make sure you don't have cooties. And no girls allowed. But here it is, the Practical Woodsman secret clubhouse. All right, look what I found. This is the heat lamp. Let's go set her up and we'll get those acorns drying out, man. Let's get to it. These, I think, are ready. They've been under the heat lamp for, several hours today. And, I want them to be, that's hot. I do want them to be brittle. Most of them are. Some of them are not that brittle, but we can work with them like this anyway. So if you were out in the woods, out in the field, what you'd just do is you go find a rock like on the ground or any hard place to do this. course, your dogs always want to be right there in the middle of everything. They like to help. I'll tell you what, that smells good while I'm doing that. It kind of smells like a baked bread. All right, that's not working out too good. I mean, I was trying to get just the bigger pieces, but it looks like we're going to have to put those into something harder and do it outside of the cloth here. I think the big rock was better. We're getting there, slowly but surely. That's producing a lot more flour than I expected it to. Pretty cool. Whew, that'll wear your arm out. I can't believe how much flour grain I was able to get from that small amount of acorns. I did not have a lot of acorns to work with, but my goodness, the amount of flour that come out of them is really something else. I can't believe how much acorn flour I got out of that very small amount of acorns. That's impressive. It looks like brown sugar, doesn't it? Well, it kind of smells like brown sugar. I'm sure it don't taste like brown sugar, but it's got kind of that bread-like smell to it. And now I'm just going to try to fry up a little patty on a skillet. It's amazing. Looks like there's a hair in there. That's about the consistency I want right there. That's just acorn flour mixed with water. Might be too wet, but we will find out. Spread that out a little thinner. I can see we're going to have to follow up this experiment with one where we use a bonding agent like an egg or something. We want to see if we can get those to stick together, form like a patty. Look at that. It's like it's I broke it apart. Let's see if we can do this one. It's tough. It's tough to keep those together without something to bond it. Okay, those are our acorn patties. That was just with water. Now I want to try it with maybe an egg or maybe with some grease or something like that. This is bacon grease. So we're going to try this in just a second. I've actually already tried it, but what I mean is I'm going to let you see me try it. And we're going to try another patty here using bacon grease and see if that holds it together a little bit better, see if it cooks a little bit better. We still got a little bit left over there from when we just did it with the water. That is with leftover bacon grease. Dadgum, that's hard to keep together. Alright, we're going to have to go with the egg. Alright, that's acorn mush. That was with the bacon grease. That smells the best so far, but of course it did not turn out the best so far. Now we're going to do something different. I hesitated to use this method because it's not always a sure thing that you'll have an egg out in the wilderness. What, doesn't that acorn flour just look so nice? Look at that. With the egg, it patties right up. All right, I think we're near the end of this. Here I've got three different, well, let me first of all show off the star of the show, which is this acorn flour here, the raw acorn flour, which has been dried and ground and all that stuff over today. That all happened today. As you've probably seen, I've used three different preparation methods here for these acorns, just as an experiment. And so right here is the first method we tried. This was acorn just with water. Acorn flour mixed just with water. Let's give it a try. What do you say? Salted. It's not bad. It tastes like, I don't know. Don't know how to describe it. Let's try another piece. Yeah, it's still a little moist there in the middle. I thought I fried her on the pan for enough time, but I apparently did not. Let's see if I can find a smaller, crumbly, or more crumbly piece. It tastes kind of like rye bread or something like that. It's not bad. So that's definitely something you could do out in the field. Those were the methods I was trying to use. What might you have with you out in the field? And so what could you do with the acorns with what you have out in the field? Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. It just kind of tastes like bread, like wheat bread or rye bread or something like that. So there you go. There's the method of just mixing with water and then forming into a patty and frying on a pan. A method I would have liked to have tried, but I'm not going to try right now. I might try it with the rest that I have left over, is baking. I would have liked to mix these with water, roll them out thin, poke some holes in them like crackers, and then bake them in an oven. So I may be doing that. I'm not going to include it in this video though. Okay, the second preparation method that I used tonight with this acorn flour was I mixed it with leftover bacon grease. So just my morning bacon, I took some of that bacon grease, leftover bacon grease, I formed it into a patty, tried to fry it, it didn't stick together. So this is more like acorn mush, but let's see how it turned out. Bigger piece in there. Not bad. Tastes about the same as the first one. All right. Yeah, it's not bad at all, actually. Huh. Yeah, it's not bad. Okay, so the third one here is the one that I was hesitant to do because, I mean, I knew that it was probably going to be the one that turned out the best, but I was hesitant to do it because you ain't got an egg all the time when you're out in the woods, do you? So I was trying to avoid using any preparation methods that relied on things that you might not have with you in the woods. But here is the preparation method where I used an egg. So it was just an egg. I put in the acorn flour and beat that up. Let's see how it turns out. It smells good. Yeah, that's fantastic. It's really good. I could eat that all day long. I mean, it doesn't taste much different than the first one we did with the water, just mixing with the water and trying to fry patty. It's just that because it holds together so well, look at that. I guess you'd call this kind of like an acorn tortilla or something, or acorn omelet. Look at that. It's so good. It's delicious. Wow. So that's definitely the winner. Man, if you got an egg with you when you're out in the woods and you have some of this acorn flour, that's a good deal right there. Wow. Wow, that's good. Okay. So that brings us to an end of the show about acorn flour. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tack on me roasting acorns in a pan and using them as a coffee substitute at the end of this show so that I can consolidate the previous show about acorns into this show about acorns and just have one big show about acorns. So that's going to pick up right after we leave off here. Folks, I appreciate you joining me here with the Practical Woodsman. And man, that was a lot of fun. Learned a whole lot about acorns. Man, it's so good. Now that does taste like bread. That mixed with that egg, it even has kind of like a consistency of bread. Yeah, you could sandwich anything between two of these patties and acorn bread with something in the middle. My goodness, that'd be good. Holy mackerel. All right. So anyway, we had our challenges. We got through them. I hope you guys enjoy what you saw and learned here today. I know I did. Next up, roasting acorns in a pan, using them as a coffee substitute. You're going to enjoy that. There's the trees right there, and there's all kinds of acorns down here. There's a proper acorn with a proper cap on it. Let's see how this is. That is really good. That's like something you get it from the grocery store. Peanuts, like roasted peanuts or something like that. Really good. That bitterness, roasting them like that, has just taken the bitterness right out of them. I think the secret is really, you know, if you noticed when I was shelling these things, I was trying to keep them whole, but that's probably not what you want to do. You probably want to split them like this. See if you can see that in the camera. You probably want to split them like that. Roasting them is the process of trying to get rid of that bitterness. And I'll tell you, roasting them, it just completely gets rid of that bitterness. It's very good. Now, keep in mind, these are not only roasted, but these have also been salted. Now, what I'm going to do, these are delicious. I'll tell you, they really are delicious. When I tried them earlier raw, they were as bitter as could be. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a small mess of these. We're going to put them into this grinder here, this portable coffee grinder that I've got, and we're going to see what they do as a coffee substitute. All right, so let's do that. Oh, one last thing I want to say as we're doing this. What I want to tell you is that as I was roasting these, the smell was incredibly good in that olive oil with a little bit of salt. I don't even know how to describe it. It smelled like, it filled up the whole area here with the smell of like roasted, like buttered popcorn. It was a fantastic smell. You know, it's too bad that the internet don't allow me to transfer smells across the internet. This grinder here will only fit acorns of a certain size, so I'm trying to pick out the smallest ones. The whole area in here just smelled like buttered popcorn or something like that. I'll tell you what, if you've never done something like this and you come across an easy mess of acorns, I just don't see any reason why not to collect them, make them into something good. I mean, it's not a whole lot of work. This is kind of like one of those things where, you know, you're stepping over food all the time, stepping over good stuff all the time, that with just a little bit of effort, you could collect these sorts of things and really enjoy Mother Nature, have a closer connection with Mother Nature. So let's go ahead and grind these. There we go. If I'm not in the camera, I may need to take the top off every once in a while. Make sure those are dropping off in there. I'll tell you what, I'm really impressed with those. The smaller they are. So what I was saying earlier was, as you're deshelling these, the smaller the pieces, probably the better. They roast better, and the better they roast, the better they get that bitterness out of there. So if you got like these big ones right like this, they're probably going to roast more slowly. It's going to be harder to get the bitterness out of there. Can you see that? It looks like coffee. And I'll tell you what, it smells like coffee. I just want to tap a little bit in there. Can you see that? Folks, remember when I was setting these out and they were fresh and green? That is amazing. And it's got this beautiful coffee smell to it. Let's boil some water. Put this into a filter, and let's see what kind of drink we get out of this. This is exactly the way I make my coffee most of the time. We're just going to do like a double shot. It's dark. It's dark like a dark coffee roast, which is amazing because the meat of those acorns were so green and white and fresh, but once you roast them up like that, look what it does. Gets that tannin out of there, but it gives you a black, dark roast like thing. Okay, so here we go. Wow, that is fantastic. I'm not kidding you, that is fantastic. You could collect those, go through the whole process in probably an hour. And I ain't kidding about that. You'd have food for the night and a warm coffee-like drink for the evening after like an hour's worth of work for the evening. It's fantastic. It's got like a coffee taste to it. It's really amazing. That is dark coffee-like. It tastes like coffee. That is incredible. Like decaf coffee. That's what it tastes like. Wow, fantastic. Man, I'll tell you what, folks. You come across some acorns, remember, you don't have to know what kind of acorns they are. It don't matter. All acorns are edible. You can roast them in a pan like that over a campfire. See, that's the beauty of this presentation here. Everything I've done here, you can do right out in the woods. You don't have to be in your house. You don't have to be in a place like this. You could just do it right over a campfire. And I'm telling you what, that is an amazing, amazing experience. That's incredible. Incredible. Man, 3 thumbs up and a toe and a tail. All right, because I got my puppies right here. They've been involved in this too. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining me right here on The Practical Woodsman. Do me a favor. Well, just press like, press subscribe, share this video. I appreciate it. Man, that's good. It's really good. I'm not just saying that.